Hello everyone, in this video we are reading People of Reddit who had a guest ruin the wedding. What happened? Please consider subscribing if you enjoy the video. I worked weddings. The best was the estranged, divorced father hadn't been in the picture for 20 years and who was not invited that showed up, recognized the bartender as his ex-wife's friend, and starts grabbing everything available to throw at her. Police escorted him off the premises. Wasn't there? But friends of mine tell the story of how the best man's speech involved telling everyone that he and the groom had been lovers since college and that if there was any real justice in the world the two of them would be getting married. At the reception, in front of everyone. Sounded pretty freaking epic. Wouldn't say it ruined it, but drunk granny cut in during our first dance. Because it was her turn. That was awkward. Didn't ruin the wedding for everyone, but pretty bad. My dad got remarried when all of us kids were adults. His new wife had an adult son. My sister dated and slept with her now stepbrother. Later when my stepbrother was marrying someone else, my sister decided on the day of the wedding it was her duty to tell the bride that she had slept with her fiancé. Somehow the day had to be about my sister. My sister's wedding album looks like her sister-in-law was the star. Nearly every getting ready, speech, cake cutting, bouquet toss, even the I do's, she's either directly in the middle, has barged in, and is smiling straight at the camera, or is standing there with her boyfriend of the month. My sister didn't want her as a bridesmaid, just did it, because she was invited to be one to the guy the sister-in-law was engaged to before that boyfriend. My father-in-law repeatedly used my husband's ex-GF's name during his speeches, and when talking to me, his toast at the wedding was full of slurred speech, and a story about Mark and Alyssa and their budding romance and how adorable it was. I'm not Alyssa. Alyssa was his girlfriend in high school. His parents got divorced when he was young. He was a severely abusive alcoholic, and I've met him twice outside of our wedding. He didn't see much of my husband after he was 12 years old. Very out of touch. That said, we had been dating 6-7 years before we got married. He should at least get my name right. My cousin made it her announcement party, told everyone she is having twins, made it about her. Not ruined, so much as unexpected. My brother had an interesting toast at our wedding. He is genuinely a super friendly guy that everyone likes. He proceeded to get fairly drunk and when his best man speech started, he proceeded to thank all for attending. Next, he had to thank the grandparents for attending and doing what they did, gesturing with air quotes, so that our parents could be here. Next was a thanks to the parents for doing what they did so we kids could all be here. He then mumbles God bless the mashed potatoes, and drops the mic. Stumbling off the dance floor, we had a good meal of prime rib and some of the best chipotle pepper mashed potatoes ever. The whole reception erupted in laughter and Mum went to the chef to get the recipe, dubbed wedding potatoes gold potatoes. Enough for 4 to 6 people. Heavy cream. 1, 4 to half depending on desired constancy. Smoky Gouda cheese. 8 oz, shredded and mixed in. Chipotle peppers in adobo sauce. 1, 2 of the 6-ounce can, finely chopped. How about the wedding being ruined by itself? I was dating a girl whose cousin was getting married. Cousin was an obese goth chick getting married to a dude even bigger than her. We show up on the day of the wedding. I 100% promise this is serious. They've secretly decided it would be a gigolo wedding. Both bride and groom are in gigolo makeup, and the priest's speech thing included thank God for the insane clown posse, and thank God for Craigslist, where they met. I guess it was weird. Not really ruining the wedding, but it certainly killed the vibe leading up to the wedding. I asked my brother to be my best man at my wedding. Brother and I, Catholic, GF, Episcopal. He says yes. Months after saying yes he comes to us and tells us that he can't be the best man or even be at the ceremony, because his priest tells him it will be a mortal sin for him to be a witness to the ceremony. Because I am not asking for dispensation and getting married in an Episcopal church. Okay, understood. Sad, but if that's the way you see it, we'll deal with it. At this point I ask my best friend to be my best man and all is good. Or so we thought. A couple months before the wedding my brother starts a campaign calling my entire family and telling them they will be committing a mortal sin if they attend my wedding and explaining how my children will be bastards in the eyes of God and anyone who even sleeps under the same roof as us will be committing sin. What the frick? I find all this out through cousins and friends and am in complete shock. Luckily I have a few cool family and they all show up for the wedding. Everyone had a what the hell is wrong with your brother question on the day of the wedding. but it was a great time with an open bar and live band. Here's the kicker of it all. My mom is Catholic, my pop is Episcopal, no divorces or any unhappiness, just your normal suburban family. They didn't ruin the wedding, but did ruin a couple pictures. An aunt and her family are notorious for showing up, eating all the food, stealing some drinks, and leaving. Her one son, nice guy that he is, has addiction problems and just can't keep it together. Her daughter is trashy and has a new boyfriend every week. She will show up to family events, make a gigantic plate of food, talk to no one, and leave. My family has a free vending machine in the man cave style basement and she will nearly empty before she leaves. So when my wife and I were planning the wedding, we didn't invite the one cousin with addiction problems, because at that point, he was in rehab, and we didn't let the girl cousin have a +1. Because we were making some guest list cuts and she has trashy boyfriends anyway. Well, you can guess who shows up at only the reception. Skipped the wedding part. We had an open liquor and beer bar, so the addiction cousin gets blitzed immediately. He was jumping into every picture he could and becoming a real nuisance. My dad, no relation to this cousin, almost had to kick him out before other family members took him away. The girl showed up to our semi-formal wedding wearing blue jeans and a t-shirt, and her boyfriend of the week, who had the worst tobacco smile and looked like your typical redneck, was wearing a camo shirt and ripped jeans. She was filling her plate multiple times. She's not fat, she just takes as much as she can and stores it for later. While her boyfriend got drunk, then they had an awful maquillage session in the middle of the dance floor while groping each other. I went to the bar to get a drink, and since I was the groom, people let me to the front. Her boyfriend was there and was like, "What the hell?" Someone else said I was the groom and he was like, "Yeah, the groom. No way. Let's take shots." Everyone else that night was wonderful. It only takes a couple trashy family members to bring the mood down. Not my wedding, but my boyfriend's, at the time, aunt's second wedding. His cousin Beth, the bride's daughter, got drunk and accused a 12-year-old girl of coming onto her man although her boyfriend wasn't even there. She shot glares at the kid the whole ceremony, and rolling her eyes during the vows. And at the reception, Beth cornered her in the bathroom, slurring her words and screaming and threatening she was going to knock her out. The poor girl was just crying, asking her what she did wrong. When her mum finally asked her to leave, Beth got mad that no one was taking her side. "I don't know about you, but it's hard to feel bad for a overweight alcoholic screaming at a frightened 120-pound girl." It really brought the reception down, since there was only about 30 people who stayed after that fight. Not a guest, but there was a popular place for wedding photos. I was a groomsman, groomspeople, so there's like 3 or 4 bridal parties waiting to take pictures. This one group was hilariously fricked up. All the groomsmen are completely and devastatingly drunk, absolutely shit-faced. The new couple is having a knockdown, drag-out screaming match, and the bride throws her bouquet into the lake. The mill is throwing a temper tantrum, and then sees all of us watching this delightful caper, and screams at us, "What are you looking at?" To which one of our party says, loud enough for them to hear, "Well, that was worth the price of admission right there." I ruined a wedding one time, but it wasn't my fault. I swear it wasn't. I was a friend of the groom and I had an F-150, so I got asked to bring some chairs and a table to the reception hall, as people who own trucks are often asked to do. I agreed and was told I would be met there by a couple of women and a few guys to unload everything and place it. Cool. One of the women was pretty hot. I flirted a bit and she flirted back. She asked if I wanted to take a walk along the river that the reception hall was on. Sure. We walked for a while and talked, and it got hotter and hotter. We ended up making out on the riverbank for a bit and walking back to the hall, where I invited her to go for a ride in my truck. This was in rural Indiana, so in about 10 minutes we were along some numbered county road in the back of the truck, laying on a blanket and going at it. It was late evening and there was no one around. Then a car comes towards us. We laid still and waited on them to pass, but the car stopped and the girl from earlier got out and started screaming at us. Yep, the girl I was with was the bride. The wedding got cancelled. My friend punched me in the face. He found out later that I had no idea who she was and apologized. We are good now, and it was quite the scandal for a while. This was not my wedding, but I was the flower girl. I know a while WGO, but remember like it was yesterday. So bride and company show up at the wedding. Bride had her gown, flower girl, me, had her little dress, and the seamstress was delivering the bridesmaids' dresses to the wedding venue. Of course, wedding party got there far in advance. Long story short, Seamstress never showed up with the bridesmaid dresses. Nobody knew what to do. Total panic. While 7-year-old me sat in the corner. Wasn't quite sure what the ruckus was about. So I tugged on the bride and said, they could wear those dresses, pointing to the chair robes in the corner closet. Her eyes got wide, and they did. Wedding saved. LOL. I am not sure if she ruined it, but it is a fun story. At my wedding, my best friend was our best man. His wife, now divorced, was a very hot, lush, drunkenly slutty mess. It had been this way for years. She promised him that she wouldn't drink during the wedding or reception. So about halfway through the reception, she is out there on the dance floor grinding on my 50-year-old 300-pound uncle, just wasted and giving him tunge. Seems she had a flask hidden someplace. She then starts trying to make out with just about every guy she can find. My friend then collected his wife and had to leave. Now, on the way home she gets pissed, and jumps from the car in motion and dashes down the street. She's a marathon runner, and my buddy lost her while turning around the car. She proceeds to go to a local bar and meet up with some women she knows from her work. They drink more and she gets in an argument with a woman another she knows that was at the bar. That woman leaves after my friend's wife attempts to get her to fight her. So, my friend's wife in her work friend's car chased them home. She ends up trying to kick in the woman's home door in all drunk and crazy. This woman finally opens the door and beats the shit out of my friend's wife. Her work friends had to take her to the hospital where my buddy finally got the call to go pick up his wife. Finally, a thread I can comment on. I recently had my wedding and we woke up together happy to be getting married. Then my soon-to-be husband received a text from his mother. Disclaimer: his mother had waist-length black hair. It's a photo of her. She cut and colored her hair exactly like mine. Shoulder length, brown with blonde streaks. I was livid, of all days to color your hair. And to do it on my wedding day. Fine. I let it go and decided to just forget it. Finally, it's the moment we all have been waiting for. I'm walking to the aisle, and we reach the front. The parents were called up so we all could recite a vow together. Our wedding was held in front of a riverbank, mind you. His mother then proceeded to walk around me near the pastor. Instead of being with the other parents near the groom, she proceeded to loudly scream and fall. As she fell, she grabbed my hair and I fell with her inches away from the riverbank. My moment. Ruined. She got up and laughed and walked away while I was on the ground trying not to cry. To be honest, I don't remember anything else from the ceremony. I was seeing red. We no longer speak to one another, and I will forever refuse to speak to that woman. My husband stands by me on that decision. Till this day, when I think about my wedding, I tear up. She ruined it, and didn't even feel sorry for it. And those of you who say she fell and couldn't help it, after watching our wedding video, her husband and the pastor were holding her arms. She deliberately stepped back and fell. Not a guest, but the photographer, didn't really ruin the wedding, but she wasn't the greatest photographer in the world. She's a friend of a family member's, and runs her own photo company. She gave us a good deal, and at rehearsal she had a lot of good ideas. Towards the end of rehearsal I pulled her aside and told her specifically one picture that I wanted. My wife had no idea that I picked out, and got her wedding ring joined with her engagement ring. She was under the impression I picked up her engagement ring from getting polished and cleaned up for our day a few days before, and I gave it to my mum. In reality, I had the ring for weeks, stashed away in my safe. It was gorgeous, and she was going to be so surprised. I wanted her reaction caught on camera. Well, the photographer said she would sneak up behind the officiant and grab that moment. Where was she when I was putting the ring on my wife? In the back of the hall, furthest away from us as possible. I was irritated, but a family friend caught my wife's reaction kind of. I brushed it off. Next up was the after-ceremony pictures. This lady had us standing on a hill. She was at the bottom, and people around her taking pics as well. No biggie, but as the professional photographer you need to make sure that people stay focused on your camera, not the third aunt of my twice-removed cousin's boyfriend's dad. That was irritating. Another thing, you know how there's supposed to be a whole bunch of just candid shots of people hanging out and having a good time? Yeah, we got maybe 50 of those. Where was the photographer? Oh, she was busy talking to the family member that she's a friend of. She put her freaking camera away. I was livid. I didn't show it. I didn't bring it to my wife's attention, because I didn't want her to freak out. She was having a great time. So, instead of really great pictures from a lady who runs her own company, we got mediocre pictures from her, and way better pics from the cell phones, and my sister's Canon DSLR that was floating around. I'm so glad we weren't the ones paying her. I would have snapped. Please subscribe if you like the video. It really helps the channel to grow. Adios.